we are the #1 indirect provider in the UK for Microsoft. Just the fact that we're #1, I think, is recognition in itself. But globally, yes, we have won awards. I think 2 years on the run, we've been the leading indirect provider globally. Moving into this job role from a pure infrastructure background, moving into enterprise software and cloud, it is genuinely the best job, the most interesting job. And we're very, very lucky, and we've got a responsibility as the part of the business you sit in, because the company's made so many investments.
Mm-hmm. So when I gave Dave Watts a lift to work a couple of months ago, we were talking about when you're in meetings and if there's things you don't necessarily like talking about as much, things you find boring, basically. Is there anything in your role that you find particularly tedious or you don't like as much as the next thing, or anything that you're just not 100% up for?
Getting up on a Monday morning.
You don't like it?
No.
What time do you wake up in the morning? Do you have a routine?
Usually about 8:45. No, do I have a routine? I have 2 children, although I say children, they're teenagers now, so they're 13 and 15.
Okay.
I think my body clock is just accustomed to waking up at 6:30.
God, that's early.
That is quite early. But do I get out of bed at 6:30? If I'm travelling, got to get a train. Yes, got to get a plane, going somewhere. Probably earlier, to be fair. If I talk about solutions for 1 minute, it's such a key component of our forward-looking strategy, and we're early. We're early in this concept in terms of as a traditional distributor, and I think that's why it's difficult for people to understand what we're trying to build. But in its simplest form, the best example that I could give you would be around the increased trends that we've seen around security breaches over the last few years. I'm not a security expert, as Alison Nixon will tell you, but I'm trying to learn a little bit more. I'm always focused on self-development and the team's development. But as a company, we've seen a lot of issues around how it can be, if you know what you're doing, quite simple, not simple, sorry, but it's possible to breach certain security postures within a customer's tenant when they've moved into the cloud. And we built a solution called SMB Fraud Defense, not only for our resellers, but for us as an organization to use as well, to make sure that we are secure. And that's a great example of something that we've built, we've pre-architected, we've tested, we've looked at a market trend, and then we've made that deployable within our Stream 1 platform. And again, I just want to reiterate, we're early days, and Matt's been championing that through our technical team, through Andy Brown, through David Patterson, through Sean Taylor. Sounds like I'm names checking a lot of people, but trying to get across that we've needed a lot of buy-in. And then in the commercial team, the team you work in, so through Darren Dixon, through David Keeler, Deborah Sweeney, into the business, through the PSMs as well, who are talking about this on the phones every day. This is going to be a key differentiator for our business moving forward. It already is, to be fair, but the adoption is not where we want it to be. And one of the things we're trying to change the mentality of our teams is that not everything is about driving a new revenue stream or increasing our market share. This is actually a way to reduce churn. So you must have heard of the terminology churn now. You work in the software business, and keeping customers loyal to TD SYNNEX and then not moving for basis points is what we're used to is why we're making these investments, because we want to be that organisation that supports the channel development.
And I think we are that company now where we're giving people consistent excuses not to talk to other people and not to have these other conversations. Why would they? If we're investing in our own IP, obviously we're talking to ISVs as well who can support our current customer base, which is what my sole purpose is.
Well, it was before you got pregnant. Now I've got to find a replacement for you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've got another purpose for about a year. Well, apparently it's for 18 years, but
for the record, I'm pleased I am for you.
Thank you. I know.
And your family and your partner. And it's an amazing time for you. And actually, joking aside, it's more important than work. But to come back to that point on the role and why we wanted to focus on ISV, the truth of it is that I don't actually, to start off point, I say to people, well, what's an ISV? And I think the test is, do they even know what the abbreviation is? You know,
which is mental.
Exactly.
Because people open their eyes a little bit and squint and go, okay, you get independent software vendor. I think for me the difference is, you know, ISVs are companies like VMware as well, which are major ISVs, which we obviously work with, we've got great relationships with. The ISVs that I'm really interested in and we're really interested in is the smaller niche players that can help build out our ecosystem. And they've built their technology using a major Microsoft, you know, Azure in that space. Which for me, that's the differentiator, is you're using the technology as opposed to you are the technology.
I mean, firstly, I'm impressed, because that sounded like you know what you're talking about.
It's hard to believe.
Which is uber positive. But no, I couldn't agree more. And I think that Microsoft educated us, to be fair, on this piece. And exactly what you said, you know, if you used to draw a triangle, and the top of the triangle, people would think, as you rightly said, ISV, a collaboration between one of the hyperscalers, Microsoft in this case, and one of the other Titan vendors. Could be VMware, as you mentioned, it could be Red Hat. I mean, you know, but we're not, it's not that we're not interested there, right? But it's a question of where's our value. Dave talks a lot about our heartland being SMB, and if we think about why are we focused on SMB? Because the majority of our investments, whether it be people, tooling, vendors that we sign, are hopefully to help them accelerate their business. Well, if you think about an ISV, the best way that I can give to an analogy for people who don't fully understand it, think about IQ Blade. You know, so IQ Blade now, a TD Synnex company, they may not want me to consider them as this, but you know, I would put them, and Microsoft would put them, in an ISV bracket. They're in the motion of trying to sell their IP, in this case the data science platform, and where's that hosted? In one of the hyperscalers infrastructure environment. That's all that they're interested in, or not all that they're interested in, but that's what they exist for. That's their IP, that's what they want to be famous for, that's their product. So actually going into that base, and I referenced earlier the event we went to, they don't know TD Synnex.
Not at all.
But actually,
it's letters.
It's letters. It's letters, and actually, some people still say, "Well, your tech data." They need to understand our value. You're doing a great job of amplifying that message, and that's the ecosystem piece. Because when we bring ISVs into our traditional ecosystem, and that's why I reference IQ Blade. Think about how we take IQ Blade into our resellers to help them manage the data in a more structured way, to give them more intelligence on their customers, to build sales campaigns, and I think now, I'm sure when I last spoke to Anthony Young, he said we're like 60 people plus now in that practice. So you know, it's been hopefully it's been great for both companies, and that's going to continue evolving as part of our go-to-market strategy.